What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we are finally back doing yet another Overwatch League tier list video. I do apologize for taking a long break from tier list, but I was starting to get bored of them, and I figured that you guys wouldn't want me to create content that I didn't enjoy creating, because then I wouldn't put my full effort into it, and it wouldn't be high quality. But now I feel refreshed after taking a long break, so I'm ready to get back at it. And today, by popular demand, we are doing a Zarya tier list. And there's two things you need to know about this tier list before we get started. For one, I actually made this template myself. Surprise, surprise, I did not feel like being lazy. But the other thing you need to know about this list is that I am not including anybody who hasn't really played Zarya in Stage 3. So that's why you're not going to see guys like Kareev soon, because they're kind of irrelevant at this point. They don't play Zarya anymore, or they're benched. So yeah, without wasting any more time, let's get started. And first up is AKM. And if this was like end of Stage 1, maybe like all the way up to mid Stage 2, I'd probably put him A tier. But Dallas hasn't been doing too well lately. He hasn't looked as sharp on the Zarya, so I'm going to put him B tier. Next up is Baby Bay, and he's kind of in the same position. Like, he does a lot of damage, but he dies a little bit too much for my liking. And his grabs are pretty meh at times. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I've seen Baby Bay get a lot of his grabs eaten, so I'm going to put him B tier. Now we have BQB. And unfortunately, he is just not good at Zarya. The only thing he's decent at is Sombra, and even that he isn't that good at. So yeah, I think that D is pretty fair for BQB. Now we have Carpe. And Carpe is kind of an interesting one because he's really good at the hero at times, but there's other moments where you kind of just go, wow, he's kind of underwhelming on this hero. What's going on? He's very inconsistent. I'd say he's probably a little better than AKM and Baby Bay, but not by much. Now we have Color Hex. Color Hex, you know, I know a lot of people think that he's really good. Like, his DPS is good, don't get me wrong. But his Zarya, kind of like with Carpe, is very inconsistent. His damage rate isn't that good either, and he dies a bit too much for my liking. So I'm going to put him like top C. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. Now we have Corey, and I apologize to any Justice fans out there, but he is just not good at Zarya at all. You can argue that he's one of the worst Zarya players in the league as of right now, especially if you don't count guys like Soon who really suck at her, because his bubble management is just trash. And I think that any Justice fan could agree with me there. He bubbles Janice early way too often, and his team ends up paying for it as a result. He also dies a little bit too much, and his damage could be better as well. Okay, now we have Danya, and overall, I would say that he's pretty decent. He's not amazing or anything. He's kind of average, but he has been able to hold his own against the mid to low tier Zarya, so I definitely believe that he deserves C tier at the best. He definitely isn't a D tier or anything. I'm going to put him right below Color Hex. They're like at the same level, I'd say. But yeah, overall, Danya's been alright. He's definitely been the best player on the Paris Eternal in terms of Zarya play. I know that's not saying that much because both Soon and Shadowburn just aren't good on that hero, but still, I think it's something that you at least have to pay a little bit of attention to, right? He's definitely an upgrade. Next up is Decay, and I'm going to put him A tier. He's been a very consistent piece for the Gladiators ever since he became of age in the Overwatch League. He's definitely not top 3 or anything like that, but he's still really good at the hero. He's been grinding out Zarya since Kongdu Panthera, and while we'd prefer to see him play some more DPS, I think that his Zarya is very entertaining. He's really good at it. He consistently puts up like 10k damage every single game. He's amazing. Next up is Diem now, and Diem, he's basically just like Carpe, you know? They're very, very, very similar. I mean, they're both really good at Widow, not quite as good on the Zarya. It's definitely not their forte, but they can pop off at times, but they are inconsistent at the same time. So I'm going to put them like right at the level of Carpe. Very interchangeable. They're both top B. Up next is Elson. Some people may be a little bit surprised to see him on here, but believe it or not, he actually does swap onto the Zarya here and there, especially during Stage 3 when the Hunters wanted to run some 3-2-1, aka when you have 3 supports, then you have Rein, Zarya, and Sombra, and because Yang Zhelong is their best Sombra player, they'd have him swap off of Zarya and go on to Sombra, then have Elsa get off the Diva and play some Zarya instead, and overall, he's been okay. He's not like Baby Bay or AKM level or anything, but he's definitely been average, kind of like with Color Hex and Danya, so that's where I'm going to put him, just below them in the C tier range. Next up is Fitz, and this may be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I firmly believe he is one of the top Zarya players in the Overwatch League. Not quite S tier, but definitely A tier. Right above Decay, actually, too. I know that may sound insane, but the man has been popping off ever since he got the opportunity to play. His Zarya is absolutely amazing. He doesn't die all that much, and he does a crap ton of damage, so I feel that top A makes a lot of sense for him. Next up is Godsby, and that is yet another A tier. You know, him and Decay, it's kind of like with Diem and Carpe, where they're very interchangeable, so I'm just going to put him right beside Decay. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now we have Happy, and his Zarya has never really stood out for me, if I'm going to be 100% honest. So I'm going to put him like right between Color Hex and Danya as like an average C tier Zarya player. Up next, we have Happy's Guangzhou Charge teammate, aka Hoppa, and unfortunately for Happy, Hoppa's just the way better Zarya player. There's no other way to put it. He's more consistent. His damage output is like just as good. I'd say that Hoppa is definitely the better Zarya player, especially when you just compare them when they both play it. Like, when Hoppa plays it in the 3-2-1 comp, the Charge just seem to do a little bit better than they do in the 3-3 with Happy on Zarya, so that's why I'm going to put Hoppa above Happy, but I'm also going to put him above Baby Bay just because he doesn't get his grabs eaten quite as much. I'm sorry, Baby Bay fans, but even though he does a lot of damage, his grabs do get eaten a lot. So yeah, that's why I'm going to put Hoppa above him. Next up, we have Ivy, and it's really sad because if this was like Stage 1 Ivy, he'd be way up here. I mean, he was a beast back then, but his Zarya has fallen off significantly since then. It's not all his fault, but whether we like it or not, he hasn't been the same player, so I'm going to put him like top C. It's a sad story, but his damage output and his deaths, they're just really not good right now, so that's why I'm going to put him there. Okay, now we have Janu, and believe it or not, but I personally feel that his Zarya is really average. I don't know what it is, but it's super underwhelming to watch, and that's strange to think about because his diva is so good, but like, his Zarya comes nowhere near his diva. Like, whenever he, obviously it doesn't matter now because he's on the bench since they're playing Stitch, but whenever he played the Zarya while Salmon Sue played the Sombra, he just left me feeling very unimpressed and just super underwhelmed, so I'm going to put him like top C. I think that's where he belongs. Next up is KSF, and I swear I'm not being biased here at all when I say that he is bottom A. I don't know what happened to this dude, but since the beginning of Stage 3, he has been popping off. I mean, he's really stepped up his Zarya game a couple of notches, and because of that, I feel that he definitely deserves an A-tier spot. Ooh, now we have an interesting one. I feel that Linkzr has been flying under the radar for a lot of people in terms of his Zarya play this stage, and even though he's not God tier or anything like that, he's definitely had his moments. Like, I know the main reason why the Outlaws defeated the Shock was because of Dante and a Sombra play, but people often forget that Linkzr was keeping up with Sinatra on a lot of those maps in terms of damage output and overall ult charge, so I feel that low B is kind of well deserved for him overall. I don't know what it is, but ever since the Outlaws fully committed to him on Zarya, he's been finding a lot of individual success as of late. Now let's move on to Logix, aka Mr. Logix, or the Thick Boy, whatever you want to call him, and while he's only played like 2 games so far, I've been pretty impressed. I'm going to put him like right above Linkzr. I'd say once we get to see him play a little bit more, maybe we'll actually get an idea of how good he is, but at the same time, there's a good chance that won't happen just because of the fact that, you know, 222 could be coming in the future. There's going to be a roll-lock likely if the rumors are true, so we won't even see him play Zarya anymore. But let's say Goats does come back in Stage 4, then hopefully we get a better idea of how good Logix is, because 2 games is kind of hard to go off of, but right now I'm going to put him above Linkzr. Next we have Munchkin, and he's been a pleasant surprise. Like, I never really thought he had a Zarya to begin with, but it turns out he can play more than just Brig and a Goats meta, because his Zarya has been pretty decent overall, like definitely B tier worthy. I know that we haven't seen him all that much because Soul changes their lineup like all the time, but in the small amount of time we have seen him play Zarya, I'd say he's around the level of Logix and Linkzr, so I'm going to put him right between the two of them. Next up is Nenne, and you can laugh at him all you want for the whole Grav miss thing against the enemy Sombra, against the Dynasty in the Stage 1 playoffs, but overall he is still a really good Zarya, super consistent, doesn't matter what this dude plays, he's going to pop off, and that obviously includes the Zarya. So yeah, I think S tier is definitely well deserved for him. Next up is Note, and his Zarya has not been very impressive. I'm pretty sure he used to be good at that hero in the past, but during the moments when they had AKM swap onto the Sombra and have him play the Zarya, I've been very unimpressed. It's kind of like with Janu, so I'm going to put him around the same level as Janu. Now we have to talk about Poco, and kind of like with Hoppa, he too is in the same situation where even though we mostly know him for his diva, he's also a beastly Zarya player, and in my opinion, he's actually the #1 Zarya player on the Philadelphia Fusion, so I'm going to put him above Carpe as the current #1 B tier Zarya player on the list. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm going to take AKM over both Diem and Carpe as well in terms of Zarya because he's just a bit more consistent overall. But anyway, moving on, now we have Prophet, and kind of like with every other hero he ever touches, he's really consistent, one of the best as usual. He's probably somewhere in the A tier range. I'm going to put him below KSF just because the dude has been popping off lately, but Prophet still really good overall on the Zarya. Next up is Salmon Sue, and I'm sure nobody's going to disagree with me when I say that he is easily a top 3 Zarya player in the league. Maybe even, I'd say, debatably the #1 for some people. I personally believe that belongs to the next person, which is of course Sinatra, but Salmon Sue is very close. These two are easily the 2 best Zarya players in the entire Overwatch League. Speaking of one of the best Overwatch League Zarya players, now we have Zephyr, and with memes aside, as much as we love to joke about him, he's not a good Zarya player at all, and you can maybe even argue he's worse than Corey. It's kind of tough. I'm going to say maybe he's You know what? I'll say he's the worst Zarya. He has a lot of bad graviton surges. He whiffs way too often. Like, it's bad. Like, he actually pops off sometimes too. It's sad, but most of the time he just sucks on that hero, kind of like with everything else he plays, unfortunately, so that's where he's going to stay. And finally, to end off the list, we have Yang Long. And even though he's been alright for the Hunters this year, his Zarya hasn't been all that good. I think maybe it's better than Elsa's, but that's just about it. He's pretty average, so I'm going to put him C. And with that being said, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is my tier list for all Zarya players in the Overwatch League in Stage 3. Before we end off the video, let's do a quick recap. So in my S tier range, I have Sinatra, Solmansu, and Nenne. Then in A, we have Fit, Decay, Godsby, KSF, and Prophet. In B, there's Poco, AKM, Carpe, Diem, Hotba, Baby Bay, Logix, Munchkin, and Linkser. In C tier, we have Janu, Note, what's his face? Ivy, I don't know why I forgot his name, sorry guys. Color Hex, Happy, Danya, Yang Long, and Elsa. Then finally, in D tier, there is BQB, Corey, and Zephyr. Welp, there you go, guys. What did you guys think of my Overwatch League tier list for Zarya players? Make sure to let me know down in the comment section. If you want to see some more tier list videos in the future, make sure to let me know down in the comment section as well. And if you enjoyed this content, then make sure to like and subscribe as always. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it as usual. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. See ya!